Hello, this is Melinda Russell with Racing Girls Rock Podcast, and it's my honor today to have as my guest Angie Smith. I'm excited to have her on the podcast today. I know you're going to love hearing from her and her story about motorsports. So Angie, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. So Angie, why don't you start by telling us a little bit about yourself, whatever you're comfortable sharing, as far as just so we can get to know you a little bit better.
Well, I'm Angie Smith. My maiden name's Angie McBride. I did race before I was Angie Smith. I kind of got married into a family of racing. Mm-hmm. And I raced a class called Outlaw Pro Street in drag racing, and it was a no wheelie bar nitrous class, 7-second motorcycles, and went almost 200 miles an hour on no wheelie bars. And kind of just got my feet wet and did that, won a championship in that. I was the only girl to ever win a championship in that class. There was one other girl that raced a couple races, but I was the only girl to ever win races in that and win a championship in that. And the ultimate thing is to go pro stock motorcycle racing when you're involved in drag racing, and that's kind of the elite. And I really wanted to go pro stock motorcycle racing. And, you know, I had an opportunity. Matt called me up, which is my husband now. We were not husband and wife. We were not boyfriend and girlfriend at the time. We were actually arch enemies just because we raced outlaw against each other, and I wasn't on his team. So we were pretty big rivals. And, you know, after he moved on to pro stock, he wanted a girl on his team, and he reached out to me, and I was kind of like, no, I kind of didn't want to do it just because, you know, I didn't get along with him on the track. So I didn't feel like that would be a good match off the track. So I just didn't think that would make a good team player, but he was very persistent. He kept on and on and on. Now, finally, he was like, just come ride my bike and see how you do. So I did go to Rockingham in 2007 and rode his bike. And then he wanted me to be his date for the banquet in 2007. He was like, you know, hopefully I'm going to win the championship, and I need a date. And I was like, no, you know, I told him no, and I wasn't going. And he said, just check your email. You have a plane ticket there, so you can come. And I'm like, oh, so I went, and he won the championship, and I was the date for the banquet, and we kind of started dating after that. And so then it was, okay, now, you know, I'm going pro stock motorcycle racing. And, you know, these machines that we ride are totally different than what I come from. Mm-hmm. I come from a no wheelie bar nitrous class, and now I'm going to a normally aspirated class, no power adder. And it was a challenge at first. You have to be absolutely perfect and absolutely flawless every pass down this racetrack on a pro stock motorcycle, because you have 25 to 30 riders out there competing for 16 spots, and they're at the best of the best. And so you got to become one of the best of the best. So, you know, it was a challenge. My first few years, I really struggled riding. And, you know, with a lot of laps, a lot of testing, a lot of, you know, all of that, you know, we've put it together. And I got my first win in pro stock motorcycle in 2014. Just got my second win in Las Vegas in 2020. Mm-hmm. And that's just a testament to how hard it is to race out here and to win out here. I got my first number one qualifier a couple weeks ago in Sonoma, California. And so it was all in all. So that's all about racing. That kind of brings you up to speed of how I got racing. So me and Matt got married in 2009. We have 3 children that are dogs, because there are kids and there are dogs. And because we travel so much, we're on the road so much, and it's such a big commitment to race NHRA. So, you know, those are our kids, and they go everywhere with us. They go to the track with us. They go testing with us. They go everything. We got married. Like I said, we got married in 2009. We built a house in King, North Carolina. And we have our own shop here. We do everything in-house for our engine program. And I kind of think that that is one of the main reasons why we are as successful as we are, because we have everything, all the resources that we need to go pro stock motorcycle racing, we have them here. So
Yeah.
I think that's just one of the good things that we have going. And, we're competing against, multi-million-dollar teams.
Right.
And we've been very fortunate to have great sponsors throughout the years. And we have Denso, and they have been remarkable to me. They really have. They signed me in 2018 as my first full year, and they've stuck with me ever since. And then they signed Matthew, I think, in 2019. So we have a good dynamic, and it's really hard to work with your husband and that whole deal. But, we've been married for 12 years and we've made it work.
Yeah. And, there's days, and, my husband and I are mostly retired now, other than I have the IWMA and he has a part-time welding business, but we spend a lot of time together. And there's days that I say, I just need to go somewhere. I just need a break. And that happens, but there's nobody I'd rather spend time with or go places with. And I'm sure that's how it is with you too, because you do spend a lot of time together. You have so many things in common that you enjoy doing together, which is so important. And yet there's those days that you just need to go get a pedicure and be like, I need a couple hours to myself, right?
Yeah, that's totally true. And you have to pick your battles. When you eat, sleep, drink, work, whatever together 24/7, you have those challenging days. And like you said, you have to go, I need a break. Like, I need some me time. Like, it's really good though. Through the summer, we have a pool. So I'm like, I need an hour and a half. I'm going to the pool.
Yeah.
And then I'll come back in, put my work clothes back on, and then I'll go back to work. So.
Yeah, everybody just, deserves and needs a break at times. And so there's nothing wrong with that for sure. So he was pretty persistent, wasn't he, about you?
He is. He was persistent for 2 years. He just kept on and on. I mean, he would call me and I might call him back like a week or 2 or 3 weeks later. Like, he was very persistent. And so I don't want to say I caved in, but I kind of caved in and was like, okay, like, I'll just go on one date. And then it was like, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. He knew once he got you on a date, you were going to be hooked, and there you go. So I'm glad he was persistent, because it looks like it was a good thing in the long run.
It was.
Yeah. And like I said, to be able to have so many things in common, to do the same kind of work and to have the same schedules basically, and that does in the long run make things so much easier, that you're not each of you going 10 different directions and not spending time together. So there's a happy medium in there somewhere. But
absolutely.
Yeah, it's fun that you can do this together. So what's the biggest challenge about being on the road and being with your husband all the time? I mean, yes, we need a break, but what were some challenges that you had to go through when you first started traveling together? And then what are the benefits of doing that?
I think the challenges is, I have friendships with girls that I went to high school with, and one of my biggest challenges is getting together with them during race season and things like that. It's very challenging. I have to miss all the fun trips to Nashville and to the beach and to all the places that they go. I have to miss all those trips because you make such a sacrifice when you go racing. And I mean, that's one of the biggest things, and spending time with your family. I mean, you're with your husband and you go and you have a racing family when you're at the track, but I see my racing family more than I see my real family. Right. And I have nieces and nephews and my sister and, my mom and my dad and my stepdad and people like that. I've had to make sacrifices. I've not, I used to spend, every couple of days with those folks, and now I can't do that, but they understand the business and I understand the business. And, I think that's some of the real things that you get to miss. You miss birthday parties. You miss, very big events in your life and significant events in their life, you have to miss those things. And, it's heartbreaking, but they understand the business, which is good.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's so true. I've heard, like Larry McReynolds that's, from NASCAR. I've heard him say the same thing, all the sacrifices that team, the crew and everybody involved in your team, everybody involved in NHRA, they're all missing, and it's all the same. And they do miss so many things. And so I think when they do have the opportunity to spend time with family, or they make the opportunities happen, because they know that it's limited and we have to do it when the time is right. And so, I mean, I think every job has sacrifices, but racing is definitely a full-time job. I mean, even 24/7, but especially when you're out on the road, actually going to the events.
Right. And I mean, and it has a lot of benefits as well. I mean, I get to spend time with my husband. I don't have to kiss him goodbye and he goes racing and I stay at home and I go to a 9 to 5, and we get to take our dogs to the track with us. So, that's one of the benefits of it. And, we get to do this together and we get to do this journey together. And not a lot of people can say things like that. And, and like I said, we're very fortunate and we're very blessed to get to do what we do, but it's also at the sacrifice. We have to sacrifice as well.
Right. Now, are there any other husband-wife teams that you race against, or are you guys the only one?
We're the only husband and wife team that race the same class. Now, Bo Butner and Randy Lynn, they aren't married, but they're getting married. And I don't know. I don't think they run the same class. And I think that's just about it.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't think there was, but I, thought there might be somebody that I wasn't aware of that. Yeah. So when you have to race each other, that happens, correct?
Yes.
How does that go?
It's a lose-lose for him. Because if I win and I'm happy, then he loses. Yeah. If he wins, then I'm mad and he still loses. Exactly. So I always say it's a lose-lose for him.
Oh, that's true. I hadn't thought of it that way, but he can't win no matter what he does.
No.
Yeah. But do you have I mean, I understand every racer wants to win. I get that. But next to you, he's the only other one you'd like to see in the winner's circle for sure. And I know it's like, dang, he beat me again, or he'll be, she's faster than I am. I got to tweak my bike. But it's still got to be kind of fun, isn't it? If they're on the starting lines together and you look over at each other, I mean, there's nobody else that gets to do that.
Yeah, exactly. And we actually just raced each other at our last race that we raced in Pomona. And it's, I will say that we have a deal. And the deal is, if you beat me, I can't be mad at you if you win the race. If you bring the trophy home, then I won't be mad.
There you go.
And by that time, like 2 hours later, and we're up for the finals, I'm already over it anyway. So
yeah, absolutely. You can't hold that grudge for very long, because you're going to be racing again the next weekend or the next weekend, and so life has to go on and happily after that, for sure. Right. So, Angie, tell me that I interview a lot of women involved in all kinds of racing. So in NHRA, are women, there's a lot of women in drag racing. Are they pretty well accepted by most or all the people? Nobody really gives you a hard time? Or have you had any experiences where, it's been kind of a negative thing?
I wouldn't say it's a negative thing, but per se, you have to earn your keep. I mean, not all of the racers will accept you. I think you have to earn your keep, and you have to go out there and do your job and do well at it. And in the beginning, I don't think I was well accepted in the beginning, because they just didn't know. They didn't know if I was just a girlfriend or how that was going to work out. And if I was going to be here one week and gone the next. And then, we got married, and I think they know that I'm there now. So I can be a pain in some of them's butt at times, just because, racing, and we have fast motorcycles. But I think now I'm very well respected amongst the pro stock motorcycle community, and, amongst the whole NHRA community. I think we're well respected.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well, for sure. So when you work, you said about taking a break, going to the pool, and then going back to work. So what are some of the things that you actually do as far as getting the bikes ready or whatever, how does that work?
So a lot of people do not know this, but I actually assemble the motors here. He has spent a lot of time working with me and teaching me how to assemble the motors. And so when we get back from a race, I'll take the motors out of the bike, tear the motors all the way apart, clean all the parts. And if everything looks good, then I'll assemble everything back. And that gives him an opportunity to work on research and development and things like that. So, and a lot of people don't know that. A lot of people see me at the track with my hair done, makeup on, my nails polished and all of that, but they don't see me at the shop when I got grease and I'm covered from my head to my toe in oil and grease and everything like that, because I have to go right the day before and get a manicure just so I look presentable to be a driver. So but a lot of people don't know that. But I'm very hands-on, and I work on the bikes.
I had a feeling that you did, because it just seemed like that's probably how it worked, but I wanted to hear it from you and as to what, how that actually went. And so, as far as being a woman involved in motorsports, is it something that you would encourage other women to do and to get started?
Yes, absolutely. And here's the reason why. When I first started this journey with Matt, I didn't do anything. Like, I literally showed up at the racetrack and made sandwiches for everybody. And that's about the limit. That was about my limit. And he looked at me one day and he said, I'm going to tell you something. If you're going to be on this race team, you're going to have to learn how to do something other than what you're doing. You're going to have to learn to work on the bikes. And I kind of looked at him crazy, like, is he joking or what? And he said, I promise you, it will make you a better rider. And I was like, there's no way, but okay. But it has made me such a better rider, because I can give him feedback as my crew chief. I can give him feedback of what the bike's doing. And I can tell him 5 things that the bike did on the other end of the track before we get back and pull the SD card out and download the run. And I can look at it on the computer. And 9 times out of 10, what I tell him that it did at the other end of the track is exactly what it did. So it has made me such a better rider, and I can give him feedback, which helps him tune my bike and make me go faster.
Yeah. And, that takes a special quality, I think, to be able to be in tune with that bike, because everybody can't do that. And it's not probably even just from working on the bike, but it's just that you kind of have that intuition, or that I don't know what even the word is, where you feel what the bike is doing and you can convey that. Because even, I'll say to my husband, well, the car's making a ticking noise, but it's like, well, what does that mean? But, where you can really explain, and that just helps your team all around be better.
It does. And you're right. Either some people have it and some people don't, because I know there's people out there that have raced for 10 or 15 years, and you ask them what their bike did at the end of the track, and they don't know. And then, but me standing on the outside, I can watch it go down the track and I can tell them what it did, and they don't know what it did.
Yeah.
So, but it was a learning curve for me, for sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. But it does make you, I'm sure, a much better rider, and it makes your team more successful because you're able to have that feedback. So that's really important, for sure.
Yes.
So my husband and I ride motorcycles, not what you do for sure. That will never happen. But I got my motorcycle license at the age of 50.
Awesome.
He's my second husband, and he had a motorcycle. We went on our first date on a Yamaha FZ1. So it's a fast bike for a street bike. And I fell in love with riding motorcycles, and he always said the fun's not on the back. And so I went to the Secretary of State one day on my lunch hour, took the written test, and I passed it, and decided, okay, well, then that must mean that I should, give this a try. So I started on a little Honda Rebel 250 and learned to ride in the yard. And then I ended up with a Honda VTX 1300, which I loved. But after some back surgery and that, I had to sell it. I couldn't do it. So I ride on the back a little bit, but I'm trying to get him to buy a Gold Wing, one of those cushy,
Yes.
Yeah. So, so I've been about, I think we went 120 down the highway one night, and I said, enough.
That's enough. Yeah.
Yeah. What's the fastest that you've ever gone?
So in Sonoma this year, I went 673 at 2:03:06.
Wow.
And that was my career fastest and quickest.
Wow. That's fast.
Yeah.
So when you you make that pass, and then you slow down, and what's your body feel like? Is it just like there's an adrenaline rush? Can you describe that?
Well, in the past 10 years, you usually don't have to amp yourself up, because you're like, I'm racing and I got to go out there and I got to win and all of that. And I think the more comfortable you get on the bike, the more it calms yourself down. So sometimes on race day, you got to amp yourself up, because you're so comfortable on the bike and you're so comfortable making passes down the track. I will say our bikes accelerate fast. Our bikes are 0 to 60 in less than a second. And we shift 5 times in 4.5 seconds. So we're already in high gear in 4.5 seconds. So the first probably 8th mile of the track, there's a lot going on, because you got to make sure the bike's going straight. You got to get tucked. You got to shift on time. There's a lot going on. And then the last 1/8 of a mile is kind of like, you're just cruising. You kind of put it in high gear, and then you just cruise the rest of the way. And the first time I rode a pro stock bike, because I ride a V twin, I felt like I was sitting on a washing machine on the spin cycle, and it was out of balance. That's what it feels like riding a V twin. But now that I've rode them so long, and I don't really notice the vibration. But when new people come in and ride a V twin, they're like, wow, they're like, my hands are numb. Are your hands not numb? And I'm like, but I've rode these so long, they're not numb. Like, it doesn't even faze me anymore. But our bikes accelerate. They are 3.1 to 3.3 G's off the starting line.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that I can't even imagine what that feels like. I know that 120, I was on the back, and I was like, okay, this is fast enough. And he's very safe. And we were, but 120 is not safe. I don't care what road you're on, unless you're riding down the track. But it also was kind of fun,
Yeah.
I mean, if I really be honest, and I did the Richard Petty Motorsports ride around Daytona, where they drive the car and you ride. And I actually said to the guy, and I don't remember how fast we went, but it wasn't fast enough. I'm like, is this as fast as we go? And they were all teasing me. They're like, Melinda, you really like the speed and I said, yeah, as long as he's driving.
Right. And I'm the opposite.
Yeah.
I want to be in control.
Okay.
As long as I'm driving, I'm okay. When I ride with Matt, which I don't very rarely ride with him, but when I do ride with him, like, I don't like it because I'm not in control.
Yeah.
So,
but that's because you're really comfortable on a bike. And, at the age of 50, I learned to ride a motorcycle, and I rode one for about 12 years or so, 10 years. And I was ready to give it up after my back and that. It was just, and the way people drive on the road and the cell phones.
It's horrible.
I was ready to not do that anymore. But I assume you have some street bikes then that you ride, or do you drive the car when you're not racing?
I drive the car because of everybody else. I have a street bike. I have a Victory Octane that when we were sponsored by Polaris, they gave us, but I think it literally has 75 miles on it.
Yeah.
Just because of everybody else.
Mhm.
I don't want to be in a situation where I have to call my sponsor and said, I went out street bike riding and this is what happened and I'm laid up in the hospital.
Yeah.
Yes, that can happen with me in a car. I wear my seatbelt. I do whatever the precautions that I need to take, but it's more likely to happen because not only do you have to look out for people, but animals, stuff like that.
Right.
We live kind of in the country and there's a lot of deer.
Yeah.
So I just don't want to have to make that phone call. And I don't want to be laid up in the hospital either.
No, absolutely not. And like you said, it can happen anywhere, but it's way more likely to happen and not at your fault, but somebody else's. They don't see you. They, my husband just about got ran off the road yesterday on this motorcycle and he was going to chase after the lady, he said, but then he thought, oh, what good is it going to do? Cause it's just, and so, it happens. It just happens all the time. Yeah, it really does. So what's your favorite thing about racing motorcycles?
The wind light coming on. that's for any racer who says that something else other than that, they're lying to you. Just the saddest, drag racing is, my father-in-law is Ricky Smith, which races pro mod cars. And he told me, he said, if you can't take losing 80% of the time, then this sport is not for you.
Right.
And I kind of blew it off when he said that. I kind of chuckled or whatever, but he's right. Like if you can't take losing, then you don't need to do it. And yes, you lose 80% of the time, but when that wind light does come on, it's so satisfying. It's a remarkable feeling because you, not only did you do it, but your team did it, your crew chief did it. And you had to put all of these elements all together in one to do it. And you did it.
Yeah. And it's a lot harder than people think. They don't understand what it takes to put the bike together, to get it to its fastest, its maximum, what you can get it to, for the driver to be 100% focused and on, that you're focused right down there on that wind, at the end of the track. And people that come to watch, they love it, but I don't think they understand the skill that it takes, and bravery. I mean, that's just, you've got to not be scared. And I'm scared for you sometimes when I'm watching you race. I mean, I've met several ladies that race, Jeanette Thornley, Andy McDowell, just
Kelly.
Yeah. And so, and I watch these women that I've met, or and I just pray, please let them have a safe race, because it just, gives me a little scare sometimes when I see what could happen. But man, I love watching it. It's just awesome, especially when you are a motorcyclist person and then you see what people are capable of doing. It's really fun to watch, for sure.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So tell me about your season so far. What's been your highlight and what do you have left to do?
Well, up until this point, I am 6th in points, and I think I am one round out of 3rd or 4th. The points are that tight. And so they take the top 10, and the top 10 will be, we have to clinch for top 10 to compete for the championship. And then our points get reset. And I think the top 5 get reset within 10 points of each other, and the bottom 6 through 10 get reset for 5 points between each other. So we're hoping we'll make the top 10, which, I'm very positive. I'm pretty positive that that's going to happen. And then we get to compete for a championship. We've had some really good races. I think one of the highlights of my season was qualifying number 1 in Sonoma. Sonoma is one of the fastest tracks on the circuit. And to be number 1 qualifier there, especially with my husband, was the next pair behind me. And he always pulls out those runs when he needs them. And they told me I was number 1 qualifier. And my response was, Matt hasn't ran yet. It'll never hold. And that's exactly how I answered the question. And, his bike, he did make a good run, but it just didn't 60 foot what it should have. And I was number 1 qualifier, and I was really happy. You raced 12 years, and number 1 qualifier wasn't important to me until then. And then it was important to me, and now it's important to me. And I'm like, now I have another thing, because I was like, as long as you're, in the top 16, you can win from anywhere, which is true. And, I never thought that I would be number 1 qualifier, because there's so many good boys and girls in our class. And, I wasn't focused on being the number 1 qualifier. And now it happened. And now I'm like, oh, well, we need to tune a little bit more here and a little there, because I want to go faster and I want to be number 1. So it just opens up another bag of like getting me there again. So
but that's very cool. And that's, it's almost good that you weren't focused on it, because then when it happens, it was joyful, it's like, oh gosh, this is cool.
It was. And even when I went 200 miles an hour last year, like, with my sponsor sponsoring the Denso 200 mile an hour club, I needed to be in that club, and there was only 8 members. And, I was really, really focused on it. Like the first 3 races that we raced last year, the first 3 were at Indy. And then we went to a couple more races, and I was really focused on going 200 miles an hour. And when you're really focused on something, you make little mistakes, because you are so focused on what you're going to do that you make little mistakes. And I was frustrated, because Matt he goes 200 every day, all the time. And then Scotty went 200. Scotty's on our team, and he went 200 at the US Nationals. And I was like, wow, am I going to be the only one on this team not to go 200? And so a couple races after that, I was like, I was really focused on it, and I was making small mistakes on the motorcycle. And I think I just got frustrated, and the weather conditions in Dallas, when we got to Dallas, were not good. They were not good at all. And I didn't even think 200 was on the radar. I didn't even think we would go 200. I thought 196, 197 was out there. And I used to have a conversation with Matt, and he would tell me what's out there. I was like, ET wise. And I think we got so busy, and before first round, I think it rained. And then we were in hurry up mode to get qualifying in, and it was on Friday, and I didn't ask Matt. That was the only time I had not asked Matt what was out there. And went out there, and I went 200, and I went to the number 1 spot, and I went 200, and the place went crazy, because I was the first girl to go 200 miles an hour. And then he was the next pair. See, this is what I deal with. He was the next pair, and I went 680 with a 9. And then he was the next pair, and he went 680 with an 8. And I was,
of course he did.
I was like, you better be glad that I went 200, because otherwise I would be mad.
Right.
So, but it was an awesome thing.
Well, and it's kind of like the watch pot never boils. And so that day you went out there not even probably thinking about it really. Like you said, you didn't, sometimes in your mind, if you're thinking 197's what it's going to be, that's what you're going to run, because it's in your mind. And so, not having an expectation gave you what you were looking for all that time. And so that's a good lesson right there in racing and in life. Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, for sure. So what would your family, how do they feel about having you in a sport like this?
They love it now. At first they were very nervous because they didn't want me to get hurt. And, you know, my mom was like, I just can't believe you do that. But now she loves it. She always watches. And my dad is like behind me 150%, like all the time. Like every day that I'm at the racetrack, I get a text to be careful, go fast. He loves me. And so they're big time supporters now. At first, you know, I think it's not that they didn't think that I could do it, is they didn't really want me to do it, but now they accept it and love it, and they know it's a part of my life.
Well, and maybe not even so much they didn't want you to do it. They're just concerned. You're their daughter, and none of us want to see people we love get hurt or put themselves in danger. And so it was probably more that. And now that they see how capable you are, and how much you love it, then it changes your feelings about things for sure.
It does.
Yeah. And so do they come and actually watch you very often, or just watch on TV?
They usually watch on TV. They come to when we race in Charlotte, which we race there twice a year. So they'll come to that race.
Okay. Yeah.
It's close.
It's close.
Yeah.
So what's the rest of your schedule look like this year? Where are you headed?
So we're headed to Indy next weekend, and we have 3 in a row. So we'll go Indy, and then Reading, Pennsylvania, and then Charlotte. And then we'll have 2 weeks off. And then we go to Dallas and Bristol are back to back. And then we have 1 week off. And then we go to Vegas, and then we have the SEMA show. And then Pomona is our last race of the year.
Okay. All right. So
and then it's PRI.
And then it's PRI. Right.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, thank goodness, because I've had a booth at PRI 2 or 3 different years, and I've just decided this year I'm not going to do that. Because when you're stuck in a booth, you can't really go around. Yeah, you can't go around and meet people. And it was good for IWMA to have a booth for the presence and that. But this year I'm going to go and enjoy the show instead. Yeah. So what else have I not asked you about that you would like people to know about NHRA or women in racing, or about Angie Smith?
Well, I mean, a little bit about me, like things that I do when I'm not working and racing. I'm very into fitness. I try to work out every day, and you know, it's a commitment when you go pro stock motorcycle racing, because we try to all be, you know, pretty small riders, so you can put the weight where you want it to be on the motorcycle. So, you know, I like doing things like that. I love, in the winter, we'll go snowmobiling. We come all the way to Michigan, and we'll go snowmobiling, or Wisconsin, and come up there and go snowmobiling. That's a lot of fun. I have some friends that live up there.
Okay.
And I love to snowboard. Even though I'm getting older, my husband's like, you might be getting too old, but I'm not.
Oh.
I keep telling him. He's older than me, so he just loves to just get under my skin. But I love to snowboard and do things like that. So that I run a very active schedule. I do a lot. So I get up every morning at 4:00 in the morning to get my day started.
Wow. Not me. I'm kind of retired, other than IWMA. You know, I don't have a 8 to 5 anymore like I used to, but that's the one thing that I don't miss, is getting up early. I like my time. I'm more of a night owl, so I like being able to do that. So when you come to Michigan, where do you go to go snowmobiling?
Eagle River.
Okay.
Eagle River, and then we went north, right across the line. I want to say it's Sweetwater, I think. Sweetwater, Michigan. So you go Eagle River and you go straight on up, and I think it's Sweetwater or something like that. I think it's up there.
Okay.
And we stay at a bed and breakfast up there, and it's amazing.
Yeah. Well, and there's usually plenty of snow up that direction for sure. Even if we don't have it in Kalamazoo, they usually get dumped on up there. So there's never a problem about having enough snow. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So fun. Well, Angie, I have really enjoyed talking to you. I know we had a couple issues getting together, but thank goodness we could do this today. And I've been watching you race for quite some time. I just want you to know I'm one of those that watches when it's on TV and I record it, because there's nothing else other than HGTV. I'd rather be watching racing. So
Well, yeah, that's me.
yeah. So I enjoy watching you, and I hope you know that you've got some fans out here that you probably didn't know you had. And the next time I get to the actual race, which hopefully will be soon, I'll get to meet you in person, and that's the joy that I have, is when I talk to people and I feel like I've gotten to know them, and then when I actually get to meet them in person, then it feels like I've really made a friend, and that's what I love about what I do. So you're on my list now to find when I get to the racetrack, and we'll be able to meet in person, and that'll be fun.
Well, awesome. Well, thank you for having me on. And, I love when people do this, because, you always see us on TV and you get like a very 10% small portion of the story. You never get the whole story of what goes on behind the scenes. And, I like doing things like this, because you never know when the right person, right child, little boy, little girl sees this, and it inspires them. And that's what it's all about.
It sure is. And I absolutely agree with you about that. So, well, you have good success, you and Matt, more so for you than Matt, no offense.
Yeah.
But, like I say all the time, I like the men, but I'm all about the women. And so I'm going to be cheering for you, like I do anyway, behind the scenes. And good luck the rest of the season. And hopefully you get that top 10 and maybe the championship. That would be amazing. So we'll say that's our goal, and then we'll do another podcast after that, and that'll be fun.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.